When I think of my favorite games, I think of games like Uncharted, The Last of Us, or even Life is Strange. And those games have really good and interesting gameplay, but also tell a really nice story. And it also helps that 2 out of 3 of those games are PlayStation exclusives. Spider-Man for the PlayStation 4 is more proof that Sony's console is the system to beat, if for no other reason than the amount of amazing exclusive titles that you can't get anywhere else. Now, I've had a PS4 and an Xbox One before, and they both broke. And my decision to get a PlayStation 4 was based off the fact that I wanted to play Marvel Spider-Man very badly, and when I got it, I played that shit. So after playing through the story of Marvel Spider-Man, and basically almost all of it, I don't need to play through all of it because for a reviewer, I just need the story. The rest of it, I'm gonna finish it. I'm gonna get to it. But the good stuff in PS4 Spider-Man is really good, and sometimes the bad stuff can be distracting. So I thought, what a perfect game to do a deep dive on. What's going on, guys? My name's Cliff, and this is Unpack That Bowl. Unpack That Bowl, the show where we take a deep dive into pop culture. On this episode, we're taking a deep dive into the Marvel Spider-Man game. Now, I have to say this might be one of the best video games I have ever played. I think I only have a few minor problems with this game, the biggest one being that it feels too short. I need more Spider-Man. You gotta understand, I'm fiending for more Spider-Man. You only gave us maximum 2 days play? That's how quickly I finished the game. So first, I want to start with this. Yuri Lowenthal kills it as Peter Parker. Now, when I first started playing, I thought I knew his voice from somewhere.
If anyone knows about the origins of that mask, he will.
Just keep me in the loop. Like I said, I think there's a bigger story here, and I plan to be the one to break it.
Sure. So I can call you, whenever?
Yeah, whenever, whatever.
So I guess we're talking again. Cool.
And then it clicked. I found out that he was the dubbed voice of Sasuke Uchiha, and I was like, alright, that makes sense. But he's a really good voice actor. When he needs to cry, and Yuri needs to make you feel like Peter is crying, you actually feel that. I also want to say that the quality of this game only matches one other game that I've played. Uncharted. The facial expressions are the same. It is amazing. It's not uncanny. It feels very realistic and lifelike. Everyone looks and feels like actual people in the game. You can see so much detail in characters with even the smallest interaction of someone you run up on in the street. I also want to take this time to mention Marvel's Spider-Man and DC's Batman share a lot in common. They're both heroes of a fictional New York City, they both wear masks and use high-tech gadgets to take down enemies, and usually they're non-lethal. The two even have remarkably similar video games. For Batman, it's the Arkham trilogy, and for Spider-Man, it takes its combat and maneuver directly from the Arkham series and implements that for Spider-Man, and I think that's what really saves the game. The combat play in this game is so much fun. If you play the Arkham series, you know that you can bounce from bad guy to bad guy to bad guy, and that's the way you play here as Spider-Man, and it's so dope. The ability to bounce from bad guy, to take the fight into the air, to take the fight wherever you want it, the combat in this game is top tier. It's so fun. The enemies actually react real, they flank you and they shoot at you multiple times from multiple angles. The game forces you to stay on the move. It doesn't give you a lot of health, so it forces you to either upgrade or play smartly. One thing that kind of irritated me was a lack of boss fights. We had to fight the usual suspects, the Rhino, the Shocker, Mr. Negative. It just felt like these boss fights, the combat gives you so many different variations of taking down so many different minions, but when you get to the boss, it's a certain amount of quick time events, which, I'm not really a fan of quick time events, but that leaves you wanting more, because instead of there being different variations to being a boss, now there's the same pattern that you would define, and you just evade, dodge, wait till the boss is tired, attack, rinse, repeat, and that gets tiring. Right, you feel me? Chasing things in the air is very fun. Chasing around the birds to collect this man's pigeon was probably the best part of the game, but also when you chased the shocker, that was so much fun. It's just a shame that that wasn't in the game more. But I feel like I'm nitpicking now because I really did enjoy PlayStation Spider-Man. This game also makes being Spider-Man fun and easy. It has you doing menial tasks like collecting pigeons or taking photos like a tourist, and it's still fun. Previous Spider-Man games would have you feeling Peter is too jokey or too cringy, but this Spider-Man actually makes it fun to be Peter and Spider-Man. The game also draws references from everywhere, from past TV shows and comic book storylines and past video games. This takes what Spider-Man really is and makes it work. You could really tell that the developers cared for this game and wanted it to succeed. I think most importantly where the game shines is its story. It's simply one of the best Spider-Man stories outside of the comics, period. I enjoyed it as much as Far From Home, and it's not really surprising. Maybe newcomers to Spider-Man might be surprised, but surprises don't make a story. I'm looking at you, M. Night. There's a lot of emotional weight, and the consequence to the end of the story had me being like, nigga, please just give it to her. I swear to God, if there was a button that would give it to her, I would do it. And that's how I feel about the end of the game. It's fun, but it's also weighty and emotional. And there's also plenty of good Spider-Man humor and levity to keep the game going along. It's a really nice balance. I enjoyed it, and I'm pretty critical of most video game stories. I'm also very impatient with cutscenes a lot of the times, but I never felt impatient during any of the storyline. I did find myself feeling impatient at certain points of the story though. You see, in the game, there are two types of gameplay. There's Spider-Man, and then there's everyone else, right? So when you play as Spider-Man, it is the best possible version of Spider-Man video game form. Like that is that. Alright, I'm gonna go check it out. Let me just see. Next point. Oh, with the fadeaway, my man Dirty. Tell me he don't do it again. Tell me he clapping. He know it. Everything you do with Spider-Man works. There's so much polish to this game, and he has a million different animations for everything. The parkour animations can have a learning curve, but it's really satisfying swinging around. You can honestly just spend hours swinging around New York City. And then there's non-Spider-Man stuff. This is the irritating part of the game. You know, I love the other heroes that aren't really heroes, MJ, Miles, normal Peter, but let me tell you how unfun it is to play a game as Spider-Man, and in the very next level, you are stripped of everything that makes Spider-Man. That's kind of, you know what? I think those games would be more enjoying if the stealth mode wasn't so broken, if it wasn't so slow and monotonous and repetitive. There's so many reasons why I don't like playing as Miles or Peter Parker or MJ, and MJ's the worst offender for it. It just felt like it could have been done better. And don't get me started on the puzzles. The puzzles are the worst part of this game. I fucking hate the puzzles. And then apparently you can skip them. I know you can skip them. Why can you skip them? Why no one told me you could skip them? And finally, I enjoy PlayStation Spider-Man. Ooh, I almost lost it. Because it feels like the most true iteration of Peter Parker. This is the best Peter Parker representation in the media. A lot of the times we get, not a lot of the times, all the time, we get Peter in high school. Guess what? Like 80% of his stories are outside of high school. And that's what this gives us, and I enjoyed that because we're done with high school Peter. Not really, but like video game wise at least, nigga, there's no reason for him to be in high school. Peter Parker's humor isn't too much that it feels annoying or cringy at times, and he's actually really nice. Like to every person he runs into, he is the nicest person that I've ever met. He comes across as really charming, and you're actually really happy to be Peter. I loved going around as Peter, and I would even stop to talk to people. I'd help people out, except for when they were drug deals. You know what? They just try to make the cash. As Spider-Man, I look the other way. So my final thoughts on PlayStation Spider-Man is that it's a fantastic game with great movement and the combat that is compared to no other. It has a compelling story that, is dragged down from time to time with boring quick time event missions and, the occasional MJ stealth mission. But there was one cool MJ stealth mission, I'll say that. This stealth mission with MJ where you told Peter who to attack, probably my favorite MJ stealth mission in the whole game. And I like those side missions because being Miles and being MJ allows you to see Spider-Man in action from a different point of view. At least in the one scene, and I thought that was cool. So overall, I really enjoy PlayStation Spider-Man. It's a really dope game and has very little flaws. If anything, its biggest flaw is that I want more. I'd have to give PlayStation Spider-Man an 8 out of 10. It is an almost perfect game. And I love Spider-Man. I have a lot of Spider-Man content coming up. I have the Spider-Man trilogy I'm going to review. And you know what? I've been talking about Uncharted so much. We're going to take a retrospective look at Uncharted, Naughty Dog's best series. Let me know how you felt about the Spider-Man game. If you haven't played it and you watch this video and that makes you want to play it, let me know how you feel. If you've already played it and you really enjoy it, tell me, what's your favorite part of PlayStation Spider-Man? Thanks for watching, guys. My name's Cliff, and this has been Unpack That Bowl. Peace. And then we see Drogon blasting through the city.
In a chair.
And Shrek was pretty... I maybe wash the shit off my hands, and then we peel it off. I've heard of buoyancy related to like boats and like, for example, how little compromise with evil is okay as long as it all works out in the end, right? Bop, bop. He had it with the shield. He said, ha, ha, ha. Everyone was flaming him too.
Fuck that, dude.
Everyone was flaming.
Hey, we racing the roof.
Like, do something if it means everything or whatever the fuck it said. I guess so, but.
Never wanted you to worry.
I did. I'm so proud.
I'm sorry.
And then
Hey, it's a really good game. You guys should check it out. And also, you should check out some of our other content that we post. We like to make podcasts. We got a gaming channel. Y'all should check that out. Because we work off of viewers like you. Peace.